So why do we get all this hate and stuff? Because the corruption that the churches and synagogues have brought, when we try to push that away, people throw that hate. So same thing was true in that time. So the early time of Nuh alayhi salam, those were the Muslims. So when the time of Bani Israel and their Anbiya, Musa alayhi salam and Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam, these were Muslim. According to our definition, these were Muslims. So he was in that religion of Islam but corrupted. But he had corrupted it. Even according to Jewish literature, he was a cruel king that oppressed people, and he delved into things that were forbidden even according to Jewish tradition. At that time, the Bin Israel and those that were with them had become so corrupt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Isa alayhi salam. And Isa alayhi salam, as a prophet of Allah, bringing a message from Allah, correcting what the people had corrupted from the earlier messages, back to the Tawheed that was taught by Musa alayhi salam, his da'wah began, and those became the Muslims of the time. And people would call them Christians, but we would say those early ones who didn't worship Jesus, who didn't make shirk, these were the Muslims of the time. So now the da'wah of Isa alayhi salam is now spreading, and when it comes to Yemen, Dhu Nawas oppresses them. He is harsh against them. See, because when people corrupt a religion and somebody tries to bring it back to the original, people will attack them. Same thing with us today. We don't call to worship somebody other than Isa alayhi salam's ibadah, that he worshipped Allah. Who we worship is who Isa alayhi salam worshipped. Our call towards Tawheed is Jesus' call towards Tawheed. It's Moses' call towards Tawheed. So why do we get all this hate and stuff? Because the corruption that the churches and synagogues have brought, when we try to push that away, people throw that hate. So same thing was true in that time. Those people that were following the message of Isa alayhi salam, those earlier people who were now engaging in magic and shirk and all kinds of cruelty, started to oppress them, so the da'wah was secret. The people would secretly be giving da'wah, but not openly, because they would be persecuted. Now, Al-Hafidh ibn Kathir has this in his tafsir. If you open Tafsir ibn Kathir, in the beginning of the Tafsir Surah Fil, he mentioned this. Also in Bidayah wa Nihaya, and Dhahabi and others have mentioned this. And you can find the essence of this in the Sahih of Imam Muslim itself. Authentic, no doubt. That in the time of Dhu Nawas, there was a magician. And this magician was a confidant of the king. So the king wanted to control his people, so he would have this magician do things that were unexplainable to derive his authority from that. So he would keep that magician very wealthy and rich and all of that, and the magician would bring any authority to the king. But this magician got old. And this hadith is famously known as the boy and the king, but we'll tie how that ties in to Surah Fil today, inshallah. So this magician, he told the king, he said, look, I'm getting old, and the skill set that I have, the magic that I have learned, the trickery that I have, I need to pass it on. And this is something strange, because he knows this is wrong stuff, this is magic, but he still wants that corruption to outlast him. You're going to be dead, who cares? But this is how the people are. So the king told him, okay, find a good, intelligent young boy. Now, interestingly, in the hadith, he's called Ghulam. And that's very important, because Arabic is a very baligh language, fasih language, a very eloquent language. Like we say boy, kid. But how old is that? I could call a 30-year-old boy, or a 10-year-old, right? Or a kid. Like, well, that's relative. If I'm 90 years old, as a 20-year-old, you're a kid to me. But if I'm 20, you got to be 4 or 5 to be a kid, right? That's all relative. But Arabic's not like that. Lisan al-Arab, one of the standard dictionaries for the Arabic language, it mentioned ghulam would only be used for the boy, not girl, but boy, who was under bulugh, under puberty, right? 14, 15, whatever, most people hit puberty at that age, but he was under bulugh. Fata is used for a young man past bulugh. So the hadith didn't say fata. It says ghulam. So that means this young man, and that's very important context here, is under 14 years of age. He's very young. And he's very intelligent. So they choose him to be the apprentice of the magician. So every day he goes to this magician and he learns magic from him. Haram. But on the way from his people, he sees a rahib. Somebody who was a knowledgeable person. Somebody who was a da'i. Who was calling towards the true message of Isa alayhi salam. Towards the rectification of the true religion. Who was calling him towards good. But he did it secretly because of the oppression that was going on. So he would sit in a cave on a pathway and he would talk to people secretly, low down, no big fuss like that. So this young boy, he would go and he would listen to this rahib and he would like what he hears because it's a call towards the haqq, towards tawheed. But his job, his whole mission in life was to learn magic. So he would go and sit with the sheikh and learn, and then he would go to the magician and learn. So he was balancing these two worlds, haram and halal, good and bad. And this went on for a while, but because he's a young man, he's maybe 12, 13 years old, right? He's under 14, 15 years of age, under bulugh. When he would get to the magician late, because he sat with the rahib, the magician would punish him, he would beat him. And when he's going back to his town, he would again sit with that rahib to learn good knowledge. But when he got to the town, it was late, so they would get upset with him and they would beat him. So he went to the scholar and he told him, look, I'm getting beat both ways. So what should I do? So that scholar tells him, look, this is a time where you have to be careful. Like you cannot just be, because of the oppression that's there, you cannot just go out and be like, forget you, I'm just going to learn with this guy. Do this. And he teaches him tawriya. Tawriya in Arabic is used for where you don't lie, but you say something where the person understands something different from what you're saying. For example, Ibrahim alayhi salam, when they threatened to kill him and take his wife Sarah, he said, she's my sister. Well, he didn't mean like literally, but again, as humans, we're all brothers and sisters, we're all the children of Adam alayhi salam, right? And we have the brotherhood and sisterhood of Iman. And that was because he didn't want her or him to be killed. So here, the Sheikh also teaches him the same. He told him, look, when you're going to the magician, just tell him I got held up by the people. And that's true. When you're leaving the people, they're going to be talking to you and stuff. And when you're going back, say, I got held up by the magician. Because your life is in danger here. So the boy did that for a while. He learned the trick, it worked. So he's gaining knowledge and he's learning magic. Until a time came that the internal struggle became too much for him. Right? Because he was like, how can I have my, like there's a saying in English, we say that you cannot have your feet in two boats. If you put a foot in one boat and another boat, what's going to happen sooner or later? You're going to fall in the water or you got to choose a boat. So he realizes I cannot do both of these. So as he's going one day, he sees a huge beast block the way for the people. And the people become afraid. They start running. They run away. So as they run away, he sees this thing that is scary. Now, in Jami' al-Tirmidhi, the riwayah, the narration in Tirmidhi says it was a lion. That it could have been a lion. But in Muslim, it just says a huge beast. It could be lion, it could be whatever else. But it was something that the people were so scared of. So he picks up a small pebble, a small rock, a rock that can't even face a beast like that. And he says, oh Allah, if that rahib, if that Islamic scholar, if that one who's calling towards Tawheed is on the haqq, then let this small rock miraculously kill this big beast. Now you notice something. He didn't say, oh Allah, if the magician is on the haqq. Right? This is depth where you need to tadabbur. Think about this, right? Why? Because his fitrah was already leaning towards Tawheed. Internally, he already realized Tawheed is haqq. But he just wanted to like be able to take that step. So he takes that rock, he throws it, and that little small rock kills the beast. The people rejoice. They're able to go down the path again. They're saved. Great. Now this boy sees a clear sign from Allah.